everyone there. And now, like, I get to go and, like, then I was like, oh, man, like, Ryan Clark is the goal, an undrafted free agent who became all this. And now, like, Ryan Clark is still the goal, but he's like a peer and he's someone I can bounce stuff off to. And so it's so interesting getting to see
how you say it like that.
And people from all different backgrounds like that you have the chance to interact with and talk to and learn from every day. Like, it is like going to work and finding, like, the great veterans. And so I was lucky and came into ESPN with my dad, who I could always pick, who was at the mountaintop for all that stuff. But then you get all these other different perspectives, and it just adds more tools to your belt.
Makes it a lot easier for you. I definitely can see that, especially like you said with your father right there being your right-hand man. If it was anything, any kind of concern or any kind of question you had about broadcasting, what to say or what I need to be prepared for, I'm pretty sure all you had to do was say, hey, Pops, what can I do? I'm pretty sure.
And like you guys can appreciate this. Like, you're doing a podcast with someone you're a close friend with. Like, there's a different bond when it comes to that. Like, you work with so many different hosts when you get to any network, any station, wherever you are. You're going to work with a bunch of different hosts and all this, but there's no one that's going to know you the way your own dad knows you. And there's no one, like, I was so nervous the first time I filled in. It was because it was still Mike and Mike back then. Like, it was the show.
Yeah, it was it.
And the first time I filled in on that, I was like 26 years old, and I slept for like 45 minutes that night before. I was so nervous. And when you get up there and you're on that set and the lights are all on there and you're like, oh man, this is it. And then you look over and it's the same guy that's been your dad your entire life, who knows all your strengths, all your weaknesses, and is going to make sure he puts you, being a professional, in the best position possible through all that. Like, I came in and still going to work every day with someone that we both know in a way that no other co-host is ever going to know. Like, there's such a leg up for that. And it was such a huge help for me at the beginning. Like, I can't and probably won't ever be able to quantify just how much that helped me getting started in a place where I was so nervous.
Gotcha.
That's awesome, man. And that's great insight, Mike. And I appreciate you telling us that. Cause a lot of people, like, as we said before, a lot of people don't realize all that stuff, like going in, how nerves play a role. And especially like you making your debut and the fact that you got that, I guess it's like a security blanket in your dad. Like, you look over there and it's like, hey, I know he has my best interest. He knows what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And so I can definitely attest to that. And now, Mike, I got one more question about Le Batard show. So a friend of mine, he said, I got to ask you about the steak sauce chugging.
Oh my God. Yeah. So the grid of death punishments down there. I was down there one Friday and got looped into all that. And I think it was technically called A1 from the day one, but I had to drink a whole bottle of A1 steak sauce the next time I was down there.
Oh. And
in classic Miami fashion, like, they brought out shot glasses and I'm shooting A1 in the studio. Like, I chug it by the very end. It's like 2,000% of your daily sodium. So my heart's beating out of my chest. Like, don't get me wrong, it was delicious. Like, I am that fat still to where, like, it was delicious, but it was definitely a very Miami experience taking shots of A1 steak sauce.
I definitely can see that. So we always hear about Mike Golic Jr. and his food. Just tell us a little bit about what you love to eat, Mike. What's some go-tos for you? And I'm going to tell you a little bit what I like to eat. Since we both big offensive linemen, we love to eat. Just talk a little bit about the food you like, the snacks you like. What's been your go-to food for this quarantine, trying to stay healthy and everything? Just talk to us some about that.
Yeah, so I it really is, like, food has always been such a part of, like, my family's identity. And, like, everyone who's, watched my dad for years has heard him talk about donuts and do that whole spiel. And, like, we do, like, we love donuts and we love cake and all that stuff. Like, there's no bit to that. Like, the funny part is now we're all a lot thinner than when we were playing. And so people kind of call us on our BS that, like, it's maybe a little less often, but that was, just growing up and being an offensive lineman, growing up and wanting to play ball. You live your life around the eating schedule. And so now I get to eat more of the things that I like. And I am a huge dessert guy. So in addition to all the donuts and stuff that Dad loves, like, I think there was a stretch this quarantine where I ate a pint of ice cream a day for like 2 straight weeks. Like, I just could not pull away from it. Shout out to Graders in the Greater Ohio area, an absolute dynamite ice cream spot. But like, just stuff like that. Like, I love desserts. I love stuff like that. Like, you can go eat with other people and stuff like that. So I'll snack on that a lot of times. Like, if I'm going to snack, I want to snack big. So I'll eat real well the rest of the time. Like, I was like 80% vegan for a couple of months just so that on the weekends I could go out and like eat 3 pints of ice cream or go and eat half a dozen donuts at one of those specialty donut places around here. Like,
sound just like Cody, son. Literally been living with the guy for like the last 3 months, 4 months. Cody's the type of person where 28 days out of the month, he's only eating protein shakes. But then he'll have
egg whites.
He'll have 1 week or 4 days out of the month back to back where he's like, forget it. Like, hey, Will, is this spot good? He's looking on DoorDash. He's like, hey, do they got good cheesesteaks here? Hey, how's the pizza here, bro? Hey, what about the ice cream here, bro? Hey, you want some cheesecake back there? I'm like, hey, yo, Cody, look, bro, you gain weight a little bit different than me, Cody. Like, I can't eat a cheesesteak twice a week or I'm going to gain 3% body fat.
Well, and that's the tough part is, like, I'm not like Cody in that regard. Like, I don't lose weight like that. Like, especially now, like, I'm going to be 31 in September. Like, my metabolism is starting to do, like, I was always a lineman that had a tough time gaining weight. And that is slowly starting to not become the case anymore. And so, like, the problem is I live 100 yards from every decent bar and restaurant in the town that I live in right now. And it's the town I went to high school. So, like, I know the whole area super well out here. And so I can walk over and, like, I'm like the one-man welcome committee whenever someone new moves to Bristol to work at ESPN. They're like, hey, where should I live? I was like, hey, my best friend from high school is a real estate agent. I got you on that one. Like, where should I go to eat? It's like, well, I've eaten at every restaurant on this strip 3 times. So I can tell you what's there and on that menu. So, like, we're fortunate to have a little bit of everything, but, like, a specialty ice cream place, 2 of them, and a specialty donut place all within 100 yards of me make willpower or something that I have to constantly remind myself I have.
That's funny, like, because everybody's different, I guess. Like, with me, it's not even the donuts or the ice cream or the cookies. I'm the person where, like, man, I'll pass by, like, let's say I'll pass by, like, a Wendy's. I'm like, yo, like, I ain't had a Wendy's cheeseburger in a while. Like, they got pretty good burgers. Or, like, I'll ride past, like, a new cheesesteak joint. Like, I'm a fiend for cheesesteaks. Like, I'll ride past. I'm like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't had a cheat day this week. Like, I'm more that person where, like, I want the fat, greasy, carby stuff more than, like, the sweets. Like, give me a burger with extra bacon on it. Like,
man, now that you said Wendy's, I did do that this last weekend. It was so funny, and I felt so fat, like I had to confess. So I was doing a hit on one of our weekend radio shows, and I was talking, like, one of the hosts is it was Alyssa Lang and Michael Eaves. Michael does SportsCenter for us. Alyssa works the SEC network, and I was going on with them to talk about, like, all this serious stuff about COVID and college football and the NFL, sitting in a Wendy's parking lot, waiting to get done so I could go in and get a spicy chicken sandwich and a Frosty. And I'm sitting there, like, chomping at the bit, AC blasting, just staring at the entrance of this Wendy's. And finally I got off, and she texted me. She's like, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. I was like, Alyssa, I did that whole interview from a Wendy's parking lot, just waiting patiently to go in there and mow this down. Like, it's impossible to escape from my inner fat kid.
So, Mike, he wants to get on me about, you know, my dessert choices and stuff. Will is the type of guy that a couple nights a week, you'll be asleep. All of a sudden, you'll awake at 2:30 in the morning to the sound of cereal being poured into a bowl. And I'm not saying like a bowl. I mean one of these mixing bowls.
Jeffro Bowl. Like, I know you know who
giant.
Jeffro is, Mike. Jeffro Bowl, Mike.
Oh, God.
Like no cap. When I go to a grocery store, I get the family size cereal. I usually get the all berries, the Crunch Berry, Captain Crunch, all berries, or like some honey oat Cheerios or something like that. But what he's saying is, though, is like my bowl is huge, so I'll get the family size box, and I only get 2 bowls out of it. Like, and I'm the type of person where cereal is 10 times better at night than it is in the morning.
And
like,
then he pours sugar on it.
Hey, listen, you know what? That's just the special sauce when it comes to eating your cereal and all that. And I'm glad you said you only get 2 bowls out of it. That's how I know I can trust you, because if a box of cereal takes you more than like 2.5 bowls, my contention is you are not eating nearly enough cereal. I had someone tell me, I was like, how many bowls of cereal did you have? And she was like, I had like 5 or 6. And I was like, so the whole box? She goes, no, I almost finished. I was like, what are you drinking out of, like a shot glass, a thimble?
For real though, like you gotta have enough. Like, I don't want a bowl of cereal for a snack. I'm not trying to make a meal out of it. Like, but yeah, that's awesome though. But yeah, like I said, I'm like, my favorite. I'm gonna have to say, like, my favorite things to eat is anything like any kind of like Hispanic food, like Mexican food, Mexican restaurants. I'm the type of person where I can eat quesadillas 3 days a week. I can eat freaking rice and tacos like the other 3 days, like other 4 days. So,
Speaking of food, Mike recently hosted the You commentated on the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Talk about that experience and like Joey Chestnut.
Man, it was so freaking cool. Like, I've watched that contest for so long as a fan, and I've been fortunate. I've met Joey a few times in the last couple of years and gotten to know him a little bit. And so in the run up to that, so backstory on the hot dog contest is at the national championship this last year down in New Orleans when LSU and Clemson are getting ready to play, I ended up getting roped into going and doing this event. It was a beignet eating exhibition against Joey Chestnut. In 4 minutes, I ate 14 beignets, like the big, like full-size ones, which I was pretty proud of in that moment. Like, you know, I'm like 255 at this point. So, like, based on my current capacity, that felt good. Joey ate 74, and I think they shorted him. He ate 74 beignets in 4 minutes.
No, hold on. 70. Hold up.
Yeah, like the
bigger sausages, like the bigger.
It's like a beignet, so it's like the bread, like the fried dough ball with the powdered sugar on it.
Oh.
But it's like the size of like a dinner roll. Like these things are like full grown.
Oh, that's a lot of carbs.
Oh, it's a ton of carbs. And like the messed up part was, so we get done and I'm pretty full and all that. And I look over at Joey and I'm like doing a post-game interview with him. And he's like, yeah, I feel pretty good. I'll probably go knock back a few beers. Like, this is a nice warm up. Like, that was a slow Tuesday for Joey. And so now getting to see him like in his best event at the hot dog contest. And it was totally different this year. Like, we couldn't do it outside at Coney Island because they didn't want fans. And so we're inside. It's a closed environment. There's only 6 eaters on the men's side, 6 eaters in the women's competition. But it's crazy how much it felt like calling a football game. Like, you go in there and the preparation's the same. I'm on Major League Eating's website and their YouTube page watching competitions in other events that these eaters would do. I watched the last 4 Nathan's hot dog eating contests to like get a beat on all that stuff. So I'm literally grinding tape of competitive eating to get ready for this contest. And then to get to be around Joey, who is just like, you know, an all-time great in this, a 13-time champ, and to see him break the men's record, 75 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. And then Mickey Sudo on the women's side break the women's record on her end. I think it was 48 and a half hot dogs and buns on the women's side.
4 minutes.
No, this is in 10 minutes. So the hot dog contest is 10 minutes for that one. But just like absolute juggernaut shit from both of them. And it was so much fun. And everyone, thankfully, it sounds like I'm going to get the invite back next year. But they're like, just wait until we're back outside for this thing when you've got 10,000 people screaming while all this is going on. So it was a dream come true, man. I'm not even going to lie.
Got you. So this is my last question that has to do with food and anything and stuff like that, Mike. So what's your favorite beer? Because I'm going to go ahead and let me tell you mine. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the reason why I have to tell you this out of all people. It's because down here, they don't have it. But up north, all my family's from up north, New Jersey area, Paulsboro, Camden, Deptford area, New Jersey. And they love Yingling up there. And I went up there and I had my first Yingling up north. And I come down here and I'm so disappointed because nobody here sells Yingling, Mike. So that's my favorite beer. What do you think about Yingling? And then what's your favorite beer?
I love Yingling. Like, I had a bunch of dudes that came from that like DMV area when I went to college. And so they were always singing Yingling's praises and stuff like that. For me, I really fell in love with like when I went down and it wasn't even like normal spring break where you're just like bonging beers at Cabo Wabo and stuff like that. Like all of like the Mexican cerveza and Dos Equis and stuff like that. Like I really like started like for whatever reason, if you give me like the hottest day known to mankind and go outside and I got to reach for one beer, I would gladly take one of those in that. Like if you just give me like a straight up cerveza or something like that, I'm good to go with a lot of that stuff. So, because I was never much of a beer snob. Like I'm on the other side where my palate is so trash half the time, I could do that challenge where I could accurately tell you the difference between Bud Light, Miller Lite, and Coors Light in like a blind taste test. Like I actually did that, and I felt like a pig after it. So,
yeah, but I had to ask though, just because I know Yingling is like really an up north thing, and
oh yeah,
it made me mad when I came down here, and even in North Carolina they have it in certain places, but in Florida, like it's like 1 or 2 bars down here. I have a wing place that I go to and get wings from that I can find Yingling, but other than that, they look at me like, what Ling? What? Like I'm like, yeah, this is the best beer. You definitely need to invest.
It's crazy, dude. Like Yingling's so big up here, but like Connecticut also like thinks it's a little beer state. So like you got like local breweries like